The godfather of criminal profiling, Robert Ressler, coined the term serial killer in the 1970s. Ressler coined the term after studying the police forces worldwide who referred to crimes in a series. Today, the term serial killer is used abundantly, and we're far better at capturing criminals before their crimes can turn serial. Number 5. July of 2007 would mark the beginning of a period of terror and fear for Brazilians. Days earlier, hundreds had marched in the street to celebrate the LGBTQ+ Pride Month when the unthinkable happened. To this day, Brazilian police are still desperately trying to chase down a serial killer known as the Rainbow Maniac. On July 4th, 32-year-old Jose Enrique entered the Paturas Park with no idea that he would never make it out alive. Paturas Park, located in Brazil, is a well-known meeting spot for gay men, especially closeted men. The park saw dozens of men coming in and out for encounters or to hang out with one another. One afternoon, people were walking through the park when they came across the body of 32-year-old Jose. He had suffered several wounds to his head and he was naked. The perpetrator also wrapped his pants around his knees, making a point to humiliate him. Residents were terrified when Jose's passing made it to the headlines. Men who met for encounters began buddying up and taking extra precautions, but unfortunately, these were not enough to save them from the Rainbow Maniac. For 2 years, the Brazilian LGBTQ community became targets, and the city was plunged into fear. In total, the Rainbow Maniac claimed the lives of 13 men, 12 of which had sustained shots to the head. The MO remained the same, and most of the victims were discovered in Paturas Park. A task force was put together, and dozens of officers worked the case day and night. During the investigation, it was postulated that the Rainbow Maniac may have met his victims via online chat rooms and dating apps. Despite an intensive investigation, only one possible suspect was ever uncovered: Jairo Francisco Franco, an ex-police officer. To date, no evidence has been discovered to conclusively link this man to the crime spree. Unfortunately, homophobic violence is not uncommon in Brazil, and investigators are looking for someone who has a deep hatred of the LGBTQ community. Nobody has ever been arrested in connection with the slayings, and the Rainbow Maniac is free to roam the streets of Brazil. In the years since the first crime, the investigation has almost halted due to a lack of evidence and leads. Anyone with information is asked to contact the São Paulo State Military Police at 11-4207-1916. Number 4. The Highway of Tears refers to Highway 16, a 725-kilometer-long road that stretches from Prince George to Prince Rupert in British Columbia, Canada. While the road is filled with natural beauty, the highway holds a dark secret. Since the 1970s, dozens of women, primarily indigenous, have gone missing or have lost their lives. Due to most of the victims being indigenous, the RCMP, local police, and governmental agencies paid little attention to the epidemic unfolding right before their eyes. It's taken the victims' families decades to have their cases taken seriously, and given the investigation and justice they deserve. Different sources state different statistics, but it's believed that at least 20+ women have either disappeared from or lost their lives along the Highway of Tears, although the actual number could be in the hundreds. The highway passes through many indigenous communities that have little to no access to amenities. The poverty rate is high, which leads many women to hitchhike to get to school, work, or even see a doctor. 22-year-old Tamara Lynn Chipman is one of many women who disappeared along the Highway of Tears. Tamara was last seen on September 21, 2005, in Prince Rupert on Highway 16, trying to hitch a ride to Terence. Several witnesses saw Tamara standing on the side of the road, but nobody saw who she left with. Weeks later, her family realized something was wrong when her bank account hadn't been touched, and she had overdue rent. Her family reported her missing to the local police and the RCMP, and from the outset, their attitude towards Tamara and her case was disappointing. Tamara had a history of hitchhiking and street work, although this was something she hadn't done for quite some time. The press and those online immediately vilified her and felt little sympathy for the missing hitchhiker. Several searches for Tamara have been conducted, but no sign of her has ever been found. Locals believe these disappearances and crimes are the work of a serial killer, or even multiple serial killers who have taken advantage of the remote location and other factors. The RCMP created Project E-Pana in 2005 to dive further into these cases, but so far no arrests have been made. Project E-Pana and Indigenous activists and victims' families continue to search for their loved ones and demand that the persons responsible be brought to justice. Number 3. April 8, 1992 started like any other day for 26-year-old Robin Foldauer. Robin worked at a Payless shoe store in Indianapolis, Indiana, and had been called into work after one of her colleagues had fallen ill. Robin donned her uniform and headed into the shop to cover the afternoon shift. As Robin was working, a strange man entered the store. At first, she thought he was a customer, but as he drew nearer, she saw that he was holding something in his hand. In a flash, Robin's life had been snuffed out and the mysterious man left the store. Robin's body was discovered hours later, and the Indianapolis police rushed to investigate. Days later, on April 11, 1992, 23-year-old Patricia Smith and 32-year-old Patricia Majors came face to face with the same bizarre man at the bridal shop they owned in Wichita, Kansas. Several similar crimes began popping up in Kansas, Missouri, and Indiana. The perpetrator's MO was the same. He would find a shop where a woman, often alone, was working, and there were no customers around. Eerily, the attacker didn't say a word to his victims. Once the shots rang out, he left casually without alerting anyone. Investigators quickly realized that all of these crimes took place in areas just off of I-70. It was then speculated that the killer was stalking the I-70, looking for victims. This led to him gaining the moniker the I-70 Killer, a name which is still carried today. 40-year-old Michael McCown was the only male victim of the I-70 Killer, and he was attacked at his workplace in Indiana. Officers believe that the I-70 serial killer mistook Michael for a woman from behind due to his long hair. At least 6 crimes have been linked to the elusive I-70 killer, but many investigators believe that he continued his spree post-1992. The I-70 runs through Utah, Colorado, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, Maryland, and Pennsylvania, meaning that he may have victims in all of these states. Tremendous efforts have been made by police forces across the states to apprehend the I-70 killer, but so far their efforts have been fruitless. Anyone with information is asked to contact the St. Charles Police Department at 636-949-3300. Number 2. In early 2019, authorities were made aware of a serial killer calling himself Hercules. On February 1st, 2019, residents of Dhaka in Bangladesh were waking up and getting ready to start their day when a gruesome discovery was made. Passers-by found the body of a man, only identified as Rakib, in a junkyard. Around his neck, investigators found a sign that said, quote, "This is the punishment for the assault. Attackers beware. Hercules." The assault in question occurred on January 14, 2019, as the unnamed victim was going to her grandmother's home. According to reports, she was ambushed and attacked by 2 men. Rakib was the main suspect in this case, and the police were slowly building a case against him. Days later, the body of a man only identified as Ripon was found in an abandoned area near the Amin model town. Like Rakib, Ripon had been the main suspect in the case of an 18-year-old girl whose body had been found on the outskirts of Savar. Ripon also had a similar note around his neck, and it was clear to investigators that Hercules wasn't going to stop anytime soon. In total, 3 incidents have been linked to the elusive Hercules, and all 3 men were suspects or wanted in connection with assaults and serious crimes. Some within the community have theorized that Hercules is actually a group of men, potentially even policemen. An exhaustive investigation has been carried out, but as of 2023, the police are still no closer to catching Hercules. Number 1. Femicide is a growing epidemic that's gripping Mexico, and behind these crimes, police believe that there's a serial killer lurking in the shadows. According to government statistics, over 500 women have lost their lives in Juarez, Mexico since 1993. The bodies of these women are often found in remote areas of the desert and show the same injuries and patterns. Police have put together several task forces and operations, but the epidemic continues. 19-year-old Luz Flores is just one of the hundreds of women who suffered violence in Juarez, Mexico. On August 4, 2008, Luz left her home and headed into the center of Juarez. According to her mother, Luz del Carmen, she was headed to the Maxi clothing shop to hand in a job application. Her mother and sister anticipated her return, but Luz never made it back. She was reported missing later that evening, and the search for her began. Her mother and her sister have conducted several searches of their own, but no sign of her has ever been found. Similarly, 18-year-old Debani Bazaluda disappeared on April 9, 2022, after attending a party in Juarez. Days later, her body was found in the water tank of the Nueva Castilla motel. CCTV footage showed Debani entering the motel at about 4:30 a.m. that morning. Shortly before she entered the hotel, she had been with a taxi driver who had made unwanted advances towards her and had abandoned her on the road close to the motel. According to officials, while she suffered trauma to the head, they believe that her passing may have been accidental. Debani's and Luz's cases are just one of hundreds in Juarez, Mexico. The families of these women are told that they cannot file missing person reports for 48 to 72 hours, by which time vital evidence has been lost. Experts do not doubt that a serial killer or killers are prowling the streets of Juarez. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.